Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into some sources from the Observer Group newspapers, Southern California, specifically dated July 23, 2025. Our mission, as always, is really to pull out the key insights, the important stuff from these top stories. Think of it as your shortcut, to get truly well-informed without having to sift through everything yourself.
And you'll see pretty quickly, it's quite a wide range today. We're going from the legacy of a really beloved cultural figure
Yeah.
to major federal policy shifts, huge impacts there, then zooming right into California, looking at state laws that affect daily life, and finally some critical guidance on making tough healthcare decisions. They might seem like totally separate things at first glance, but they really show how interconnected everything is, current events, our lives, the systems around us.
Okay, let's get into it. And we have to start with some really sad news that hit a lot of people hard. Malcolm Jamal Warner, known to so many as Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, he passed away at age 54. Reports say it was a drowning accident during a family vacation in Costa Rica. Confirmation came Sunday, July 21st. Just a real shock. Lots of sadness from fans, colleagues.
It really was. And, while Theo was absolutely iconic, his career went so much further. He starred in Malcolm and Eddie, that UPN sitcom, from 96 to 2000. And he had recurring roles in, so many shows. Major Crimes, Suits, Community, The Resident, Read Between the Lines, 911, dramas, comedies. He kept working, kept evolving. Oh, and he was the voice of the producer on The Magic School Bus. He was an executive producer on that, too.
That's an incredible range. But what really stands out about him, I think, is that his talents went way beyond acting. He won a Grammy, didn't he?
Right.
In 2015.
Yeah, Best Traditional R&B Performance for Jesus Children with Robert Glasper Experiment and Lala Hathaway.
Wow. And he was a published poet, a musician, a director, too. Just a genuinely multifaceted artist. He wasn't someone who stood still creatively.
No, he wasn't. And lately, he'd become a really strong voice for mental health advocacy, especially focusing on the Black community. It's incredibly poignant, actually, that his final podcast episode, it's called Not All Hood Dropped, just days before he passed. And it was all about generational trauma, wellness, healing in marginalized communities, using his platform for that kind of work. That's a powerful legacy.
Yeah, the public reaction really showed that. Social media just lit up. There's a quote from Jalen Cooper, 43, from D.C., saying, "He was more than Theo to us. He represented a generation of young Black men who finally saw themselves reflected on TV. His voice will be missed."
Mm-hmm.
And Keegan-Michael Key just posted, "Rest easy, King. You gave us more than you know."
Mm-hmm.
People saw him as a trailblazer, someone who really redefined Black manhood on screen, showed that complexity.
Absolutely. The family has asked for privacy, which is understandable, and funeral arrangements haven't been made public yet. Such a significant loss. Now, shifting from a personal legacy to one being forged through policy. And this is a big one. We need to talk about Donald Trump's new spending measure. Democrats are calling it the One Big Ugly Bill. And it looks set to, fundamentally reshape federal priorities.
Yeah, reshape is putting it mildly. This signals a really dramatic shift.
Yeah.
It boils down to two huge things. One, major cuts to the social safety net. And two, building out a massive, really unprecedented immigration enforcement system. It's not just moving money around. It's changing who the government prioritizes,
Let's get into the specifics because the numbers are pretty eye-watering. We're talking $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act over 10 years.
$1 trillion.
Yeah. That potentially impacts health coverage for millions.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, over $150 billion allocated for ICE operations.
Right. Detention, surveillance, deportation.
And the ICE detention budget itself, it's projected to just explode. From $3.4 billion now to $45 billion by 2029. That's more than the entire federal prison budget combined. $45 billion. It's hard to even wrap your head around that scale of increase.
And how is this playing out on the ground?
Well, reports show ICE arrests of immigrants without criminal records are way up, like over 1,400% in the past year. There are also accounts of tactics like masked officers, National Guard troops involved in raids. Critics are drawing parallels to, authoritarian crackdowns given the methods and the sheer volume.
The bill also includes this proposed federal citizenship registry, combining Social Security and immigration data. First time we'd have a centralized list like that. The stated reason is voter eligibility verification, tying into those unsubstantiated claims about voter fraud.
Right.
What are the privacy experts saying about this?
They're raising major red flags, warning that this basically creates a national surveillance system. And a big concern is that it's being proposed without public debate, no congressional hearings. NPR reporters Jude Joffe-Block and Miles Parks pointed out this level of integration among federal agencies handling sensitive personal data has never existed before. And they noted that privacy advocates, even some conservatives, have historically opposed this kind of registry because of those exact concerns.
So given how controversial all this is, what's the public mood? What does polling tell us?
It's mixed, actually. Pew Research found 61% oppose deporting immigrants to prisons in El Salvador. 54% disapprove of more workplace raids.
Okay.
But support for expanding the border wall is up, 56% now, compared to 46% back in 2019.
So opposition to some tactics, but growing support for the wall itself. Interesting.
Yeah, and it highlights a really stark partisan divide. Among Republicans, support for enforcement is overwhelming. 88% want the wall expanded, 81% want state and local police involved in deportations. Democrats, huge majorities oppose those things. Only 27% support expanding the wall.
It's just a massive gap in perspective.
Absolutely.
And there's also been some controversy around the imagery associated with this bill. Trump visited a new detention facility in the Everglades, apparently joked about alligators and snakes attacking escapees, and the Florida GOP started selling alligator Alcatraz merchandise.
Right, and historians quickly pointed out the disturbing echoes there. That kind of imagery, unfortunately, recalls Jim Crow-era propaganda that used alligators to dehumanize and terrorize Black communities, depicting Black children as bait, things like that. So that historical context adds another really troubling layer to the rhetoric.
So you have Trump framing this as fulfilling promises, putting America first, but then you have opponents like Nevada Democrat Stephen Horsford calling it a direct attack on the health, safety, and dignity of Black communities. He labeled it reckless extremism. Clearly, two vastly different views of what this bill represents.
Profoundly different, yeah.
Okay, let's shift from the federal level down to California. Governor Newsom signed 5 new bills into law last week. Most take effect in 2026 or 2027. What do these mean for folks in California?
Okay, let's run through them. First is AB 1297. This one's from Assemblymember Catherine Stefani. It deals with divorce or separation. Adds a rule to temporary restraining orders, basically saying neither party can let insurance, health, life, car, whatever expire by not paying or not renewing. That kicks in Jan 1, 2027. Stefani said nobody should be at risk of losing essential insurance coverage during a divorce. It's about stability.
That makes a lot of sense. A practical protection.
Exactly. Then AB 313, this is from Assemblymember Liz Ortega. It's about student financial aid. It lets the California Student Aid Commission automatically grant 30-day deadline extensions for things like Cal Grants. If there's, say, a natural disaster, a state emergency, or even FAFSA glitches like we saw this year, or labor actions that make it hard to apply on time.
Well, that seems really helpful. Take some pressure off students dealing with outside chaos.
Right. Next, AB 134 from Assemblymember Ana Maria Avila Farias. This focuses on teachers. It expands teacher credentialing requirements. They'll now need to include modules specifically on youth mental health. That wasn't required before. Avila Farias pointed to the youth mental health crisis, saying we need to ensure that teachers are equipped to recognize the signs of distress and respond appropriately.
So giving teachers more tools in that area.
Then something a bit different. AB 233, introduced by Assemblymember Mike Gibson. This lets licensed beer makers or wholesalers sell beer directly to licensed food trucks, trailers, wagons.
Ah, okay. So beer at the food truck, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. It's aimed at supporting small businesses, boosting economic activity, more flexibility for them.
Got it. And the last one.
That's AB 553 by Assemblymember Jessica Caloza. This is about CalFresh, which is California's food stamp program. It mandates the state's Department of Social Services to maximize food choices for CalFresh users. And specifically, this includes hot prepared foods and ready-to-eat items. Before, they needed special waivers for that.
So more options, like getting a hot meal from a grocery store deli counter with CalFresh.
Exactly. Caloza framed it as supporting dignity, choice, and flexibility by cutting red tape.
Now, you mentioned CalFresh as California's SNAP program. How does that hot food piece fit with federal rules? Because usually SNAP doesn't cover hot foods, right?
That's a great point. You're right. Current federal SNAP rules generally prohibit hot food purchases. However, there are actually bills being considered in Congress right now, in both the House and Senate, that could change the federal rule. So if those pass, California's law would just align with the new federal standard. California's kind of getting ahead of the curve, expanding options for its residents now.
Okay, staying in California, but shifting back to education for a moment. There's this major challenge facing about 28,000 student teachers in the state. They work unpaid for their first year in the classroom. We heard from Ronald Council, a teacher in San Diego, who called it unrealistic. He had to juggle a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs just to survive while student teaching for free.
Yeah, it's an enormous hurdle. Think about it. You're doing the work of a teacher, 600 hours in the classroom, plus coursework. And the credential program itself costs between $20,000 and $40,000. But you're earning nothing for that classroom time. It's a huge barrier, especially for people from lower income backgrounds.
Which is why AB 1128 is getting so much attention, authored by Assemblymember Al Muratsuchi. It proposes the California Student Teacher Support Grant Program. Essentially, it would pay student teachers. The proposal is to pay them the same rate as substitute teachers, about $140 a day.
That would be a game changer for so many aspiring teachers.
It would. The estimated cost to the state is up to $300 million a year.
And it seems there's real momentum behind this. Governor Newsom already put $100 million aside for it in his budget proposal for next year. And the bill has wide support, including the big one, the California Teachers Association, the CTA.
Yeah, the CTA Vice President Leslie Lippman had a strong quote about it. She said, aspiring educators should not be expected to work for free, and that the bill helps eliminate barriers to attracting a qualified and diversified workforce. She highlighted research showing unpaid student teaching hits educators of color and those from low-income backgrounds hardest, worsening the teacher shortage.
And that diversity piece is critical. We know from research that Black and Latino students often do better academically when they have teachers who share their background. So paying student teachers isn't just about fairness, it's potentially about improving student outcomes too.
And the support seems broad.
Overwhelmingly so. It passed the Assembly 79-0, zero opposition votes. Now it's waiting for Senate review. Seems like there's a real consensus that this is a necessary step.
Okay, from supporting future educators to navigating healthcare when you really need it, let's talk about medical rehabilitation therapy. After something serious like a stroke, a bad fall, an accident, spinal cord injury, getting the right rehab can be, well, a godsend, but figuring out the system can be tough.
It absolutely can be life-changing, but yeah, navigating it is tricky. First, understand the different types. There's physical therapy, PT, that's for strength, movement, stability, pain, can be specialized like neuro-PT or ortho-PT. Then occupational therapy, OT, focuses more on fine motor skills for daily life things like brushing your teeth, getting dressed.
Okay.
You also have speech and language therapy, obviously for communication, and respiratory therapy for breathing issues. Knowing what kind you need is step one.
And then there's insurance. How does that usually work?
It's complicated. Medicare, private insurance, workers' comp. Some Medicaid plans do cover rehab, but often with strings attached. Limits on where you can get it, how much therapy you get. Sometimes they require pre-authorization. And they might even cut off coverage if they feel you aren't improving enough.
That sounds stressful.
It can be. Worth noting, traditional Medicare tends to be a bit less restrictive than some private Medicare Advantage plans, which might have more hurdles, more hoops to jump through.
So if someone needs intensive rehab, maybe inpatient rehab, what is that exactly?
Inpatient rehab is for patients who still need nursing or doctor care, but they're stable enough to handle pretty intensive therapy, usually about 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Typically, you need at least two main types of therapy, like PT and OT, or PT and speech.
Okay.
Stays average around 12 days. It happens either in dedicated rehab hospitals or special units within regular hospitals. It's for focused recovery right after a major event.
Right. Now, this is crucial for you listening. If you or someone you love needs this, how do you choose a good rehab hospital?
Great question. First, look for expertise in the specific diagnosis. Check their websites. Do they specialize in stroke recovery, spinal cord injury?
Makes sense.
For really complex cases, consider academic medical centers. Places like Spaulding Rehab in Boston are known for cutting-edge work. Might mean travel, but could be worth it.
But also think practically, right? Like proximity to family.
Absolutely. Having family or friends nearby is huge for support after discharge. Therapists can actually train them to help with care at home. So balancing expertise with that practical support system is key.
And how do you find these places?
Your discharge planner at the hospital you're leaving should give you options. You can also use Medicare's Care Compare website. That's online. You can search by location. And importantly, it often shows how many patients with your specific condition they've treated. Generally, more experience is better.
Oh, that's useful data.
Yeah, and the American Medical Rehabilitation Providers Association, that's a trade group, they list members by specialty too.
Okay, so you've found some options. How do you figure out if they're reliable? This seems like the hard part.
It is tricky because Medicare doesn't publish detailed staffing or safety inspection reports for rehab hospitals like they do for nursing homes.
So what can you do?
You can ask the state public health agency or the hospital directly for their inspection reports from the last 3 years. Look for any immediate jeopardy findings. That's the most serious flag, means inspectors found problems putting patients in immediate danger.
Definitely want to avoid those.
For sure. Also, check their readmission rates back to acute care hospitals for preventable issues. Lower is better here. This data is on Care Compare under quality. And look at their discharge to community rate, how often patients go home versus to another institution like a nursing home. Higher is generally better. Also on Care Compare.
What about non-data things,
Hmm.
like the feel of the place?
Crucial. If you can, visit. And don't just look at the fancy therapy gym. Injuries often happen outside therapy hours in the patient's room during transfers.
Good point.
So observe. Do nurses respond quickly? Do they seem rushed, overloaded, apathetic? Talk to current patients or their families if you can. Ask about their satisfaction. Ask practical questions too. Will the patient likely see the same therapist most days? Are the therapists board certified? Do they have specialized equipment relevant to the recovery, like maybe a practice kitchen or a driving simulator? Get a feel for the whole environment.
Okay, but what if someone isn't strong enough for that intensive 3 hours a day inpatient rehab?
Good question. There are alternatives for different needs. One is a nursing home that also offers rehab. This might work if the patient needs 247 nursing care, but not constant doctor supervision. There are way more nursing homes than rehab hospitals. You can check them on Medicare's Care Compare, too.
Okay.
For patients who are extremely frail, maybe in a coma, on a ventilator, needing constant physician presence, there are long-term care hospitals. Stays there are much longer, like 4 weeks or more. But there aren't many, fewer than 350 nationwide. It's for very specific, high acuity needs.
And what about getting therapy after going home?
Lots of options there. You can get outpatient therapy, maybe going back to the rehab hospital's clinic or another clinic, or therapists can come to your house through home health agencies. Your doctor can give you referrals. Again, Care Compare is useful for checking home health agencies. And the American Physical Therapy Association website can help find board-certified therapists near you.
So many options, but also lots of potential handoffs between settings.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really critical warning from Alice Bill, who's a specialist at the American Physical Therapy Association. She pointed out that patients often get moved around hospital to rehab, rehab to nursing home to home health, sometimes driven by insurance rules. Her advice: try to limit the number of transitions as much as possible for safety. She said every time a patient moves from one setting to another, they're in a higher risk zone. That's a really vital piece of advice to keep in mind.
Wow. That is vital. Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground today, from the personal impact of Malcolm Jamal Warner's life and passing to these massive federal policy shifts, the real-world effects of California's new laws, and finally some really empowering advice on navigating rehab. It's a lot. But seeing how these different pieces connect, personal stories, policy, practical guidance, is so valuable.
It really is. So maybe the thing to reflect on is this: seeing how interconnected individual well-being, community support, and government priorities truly are. You know, from an actor's legacy impacting how we think about representation, to how we fund healthcare or support our teachers, to how we help people recover from illness. How does getting this kind of broader understanding empower you to engage with the world? And maybe what new questions does it spark for you about the systems that shape all of our lives?